there, man, this latest chapter in Kengan Omega concludes the most important fight in the entire series. Like, Kengan versus KOGA, the effects of this fight will probably go far into the future of the series. Like, will RYUKI just, I don't know, turn to the dark side and like leave KOGA and, I don't know, everyone alone, kind of like a Sasuke thing? Or will KOGA manage to talk things out? But going into the chapter itself, man, RYUKI has come an extremely long way since the beginning of the story, where he could even participate in like the Kengan matches, and now he's out here beating RYUKI. It's man, like, I'm kind of happy for my boy, but this probably stings if you're a RYUKI fan. Like, I know a few people that are massive RYUKI fans, and I don't know how they're gonna cope with this one. But the fight in of itself was absolute fire. Like, I genuinely think that this is easily top 3 best fights in the entire series, like itself, if not like flat out the best, right? Like, I even have my doubts that the finals are gonna be as good as this match, because we were all anticipating this match. Like, if you were to ask like most of the Kengan fans, the most highly debated fight was going to be RYUKI versus KOGA, especially since that fight was in the semifinals and not the finals itself. So again, you had such a highly anticipated fight, great payoff, and just overall big W's. However, KOGA is in a very terrible position, or let me say, he's taking a lot of damage thanks to this fight with RYUKI. Like, this was high diff, right? Like, this, like, it could be that if RYUKI and KOGA were to fight again, the outcome would be somewhat different, because RYUKI would have more information, yada yada yada. You get it. It was a high diff fight. KOGA has busted both of his hands, and we do know for a fact that like the Berserker Brawl is just gonna be moving forward, kind of like the Kengan Annihilation tournament. So KOGA is gonna have to go into the fight with Ryuto, who's his razor's edge on one hand is damaged, but really, like, how much does that matter in comparison to KOGA, who has both of his arms just completely busted, right? I don't know how KOGA is gonna even manage to fight Ryuto at all. So it's gonna be very interesting to see how KOGA copes with the situation and how he could win if he does win. Is it even possible? I'll probably do another video predicting how Ryuto versus KOGA will actually go. But what's important here is actually the connector's reaction to the fight, because we saw he left, like, I think a chapter or 2 ago, where he said, you got it bad. Now, we're gonna assume that he's talking about RYUKI here, and there generally does seem to be something wrong with RYUKI mentally, maybe physically, but a lot more so like mentally, because we do see RYUKI kind of wrestle with his own psyche in this fight, right? He even tries to kill KOGA at one particular point and kind of catches himself when he realizes, you know, what's happening. He tries to ignore it, but there seems to be something wrong with him mentally. And we did have that point in time where Oma was talking to Setsuna, and Setsuna was like, he did manipulate him, but not like the same way that, say, Tiger Nico did, or the last Nico. I guess that's what we're gonna call him, right? The last Nico. So clearly Suka, it has something to do with Setsuna, but we'll see what happens at that point. I really do think if Koga doesn't like sit down with Ryuki and have a chat, because in this entire fight, one thing is clear, right? Ryuki doesn't really understand friendship and, you know, how to social situations, let me put it like that. He's really not experienced in this field, and you can tell he hates Koga's associates or companions or friends because he feels as though they are taking Koga away from him. That is expressed in like this fight where clearly Ryuki's kind of fighting Koga and being this extreme to get his attention, right? A part of it does seem to tie into he just doesn't want to be weak, but clearly Ryuki cares a lot for Koga and the friendship that they do have. So hopefully that gets ironed out, but chances are the series is gonna go pretty far, and this is a pretty good conflict to leave us hanging for a while, so I doubt it'll be addressed anytime soon. I do have a few predictions of what the connector could do here, but again, let's go a little bit to the connector himself, because there's some very interesting questions. What is the connector going to do about the information he has? Because they clearly have aspirations for Ryuki, and yeah, Koga, it seems as though he might have put a stain on that. The connector is actually fairly angry, which again is not something he expresses it himself. It's like, this isn't something he is, and it kind of makes sense, right? Like, he's a murderer. He's a cold-blooded murderer, you can tell. He's chill now, but when that time comes, it'll be like a switch. He'll just kill everybody, right? Like, you can tell he's that type of person. So I do wonder, like, does it have something to do with Ryuki being his clone? So maybe he kind of sees it like his failure, like this is actually a stray L on his part. So the connector's like, I'm catching a stray L here, I'm kind of pissed. So again, we'll see what happens with Shen Wulong and whether or not he will even see the finals at all. But it's been a pretty good chapter, one of the best fights in the series. One more thing with Ryuki being able to outright copy other people's styles by seeing them. He even did what is this called? Tokito's Oma, like as one of his best moves. Flaming Kata and the Adamantine? I don't know if that's how you even say both of those words, but you can pretty much tell, like, flashing steel. Oh yes, it's flashing steel too. So he can do that, and almost states, like, in this chapter that he did not teach him this. Now, he probably did this knowing the basics of the Nico style, so it's not like, you know, the Kure copy technique. It isn't that, okay? It isn't that, right? There's a foundation for Koga kind of knowing how to do this. But he also does the Earth Crouching Dragon, which is literally the move that takes Ryuki out. It takes his ass out. And oh man, he's gonna remember that. He is going to remember that for a long time. Man, great chapter all around. One of the best fights in Kengan Omega. Like, again, the chapter was just an absolute win. Like, the only people that are probably mad at this, y'all probably a Ryuki fan, let's be honest. But other than that, it has been clearly a 10 out of 10 fight, right? Like, even in like Kengan Ashura, I would argue this fight looks like it belongs in the Annihilation tournament. I said it. Recency bias, okay, but I said it.